We have the Bucks County Planning Commission Joint Comprehensive Plan Proposal Resolution.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Lisa Wolf. I'm a senior planner with the Bucks County Planning Commission, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, while you're on that side, Jeremy Stoff. Jeremy and I have both been attending the Newtown Area Joint Zoning Council meetings, probably for the last year or so. Previous to us, there were other members in our office that attended and worked with the Jointure. Just a quick outline tonight. Jeremy's going to give you just a brief outline on MPC requirements in a comp plan, and then I'm going to just stand up and talk a little bit about the proposal and the funding, possible funding that the Jointure might go for.
Good evening. So, by way of background, in February of this year, the Newtown Area Joint Zoning Council raised the issue of updating its joint municipal comprehensive plan, and subsequently asked us to provide a cost estimate for that update. And under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, it's recommended that all comprehensive plans be reviewed every 10 years. So as the current plan was adopted in 2009, we've now reached that horizon. And the one that was adopted in 2009 was also prepared by staff at the Bucks County Planning Commission. So broadly speaking, the comprehensive plan is one of the most important tools municipalities can use for land use planning and local governance. Once adopted, the plan serves as an official public document that guides public and private decisions about physical development in the community. It's also an explicit statement of future goals for the community and serves as a formal vision for the Planning Commission, elected officials, private organizations, and residents alike. The adopted comprehensive plan also is a measuring tool for evaluating specific development proposals and their impact on the general public welfare. So under the MPC, to accomplish all of this, certain elements are commonly found and recommended to be included. So those include a plan for land use, identifying the amount, intensity, character, and timing of land use, a plan to meet housing needs of both present residents and families anticipated to live in municipalities, as well as recommending new housing in different dwelling types and at appropriate densities for households of all income levels. It should include a transportation plan, a community facilities plan, a plan for the protection of natural and historic resources, and a discussion of implementation strategies. So finally, comprehensive plans provide the framework for other community land use planning tools such as zoning or subdivision and the land development ordinances, as well as for infrastructure development, capital budgeting, and other areas of municipal decision making. So with that, I will hand it over to Lisa, and she'll talk a little bit more in specifics about our proposal.
Okay, so as Jeremy explained, earlier this year, the Jointure asked our office for a proposal to update the comprehensive plan. I believe it was prepared probably in June. The Jointure did discuss it in June and asked us to add a couple elements, one being a page that sort of outlined some of the main areas within each chapter that we felt would be need to be updated. The second thing that we were asked to add was information on some possible funding sources. So just to give you a basic understanding of when we develop the proposal, generally, when we work with municipalities for comp plans, we sort of frame it out to about a year project, meaning we like to have the project finished within a year. I think when we attended your planning commission meeting a couple months ago, or maybe it was last month, I think your planning commission did say that it might actually take longer because this isn't just one municipality, this is 3 municipalities that we're working with. But we're ambitious, so we're hoping to at least get a good start on it when we do start and hopefully complete the project within a year. As we move through updating a plan, generally how we work with communities and how we would work with the Jointure is that they're monthly meetings unless they determine a different schedule. But generally there would be like a chapter each month that we would go over. In terms of some of the areas of the plan that would need updated, really, we would go through the whole document. We don't really anticipate changing the format at all, just updating to account for changes that have occurred since 2009. That would be the development that's happened in the 3 communities, as well as preserved lands, new park lands, things that the communities have done to remove some land from development. We would expand your section on energy conservation. That seems to be an area or an issue that many municipalities really feel strongly about and are putting more into their planning in terms of land use planning. And probably one of the biggest areas, we would go through the whole plan, but one of the areas that really does take a while and is very significant is looking at the land you have available to accommodate future growth. That's land in all 3 communities to accommodate future growth in future population projections. Also, an economic development narrative would be expanded, and I know this township has been working on something called an early intervention program, so we would want to definitely account for that and for the efforts and note that in the plan. In terms of the funding that we talked about at the jointure, the primary funding that we really did, the jointure really did spend a lot of time on was something called the Municipal Assistance Program. We call it MAP for short, and that's administered through the State Department of Community and Economic Development. That grant has a rolling deadline, so once all of the communities are on board, we can actually put together an application that funds up to 50%. If a project is awarded, it funds up to 50% of the total cost of the project. The one thing that's a benefit here is that you work jointly with Upper Makefield and Wrightstown. Most grant funding sources in terms of land use do give priority for multi-municipal funding. So that's definitely a positive in terms of your application. Generally, in the past, the program has awarded an average of 10 projects per year. And it just really depends, I believe, what their funding is at the time and how many applications come in. So it's really an unknown. In talking to representative at the state, I did learn that I believe it's the end of this month, they will entertain, till the end of this month, applications for the fall, and then we could still submit an application, but they probably won't make a decision until early next year for the next group that they look at. I know tonight you have 2 resolutions before you. So the one is the proposal, I believe, to approve the jointure work with our agency for the update, accept our proposal. And then the second is for the jointure to go forth with applying for the municipal assistance program. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm happy to try to answer them.
Any questions?
I have a question. So the amount that you're talking about is $50,880.
Mm-hmm. That, yes.
And we have to agree that this cost shall be assessed according to the Jointure Agreement, and that means that Newtown would pay almost 50% of that. Is that correct? Is that
I actually have
what
it
the
here.
agreement specifies?
Yeah,
Well,
I believe.
Of that 50,000, you're saying we could possibly get a 50% match.
Correct.
So then it goes to 25,000, of which now Newtown Township is probably $12,000 to $13,000.
But the other townships would pay half of that, approximately.
Well, the assessment is based on, I believe, a number of factors. It's the total population in a municipality. I believe it's the total land area and as well as the total taxable assessment.
So does one township benefit more than the other from having this plan, or do they all equally benefit in some way?
I think, under the state planning code, municipalities really need to have a comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan is the basis for what establishes your zoning. So it's very important, especially if you're challenged in any way on zoning. That's where the basis for your zoning comes. So really, it's important for all communities. Newtown Township does have the highest amount I have here at 47.59%, and that is based on an allocation using the population, because you have the highest population, total taxable assessment, I believe you also have the highest of that, and then land area. I don't know where that stands in relation to the other two.
Okay, I mean, it just seems to me that, with footing a lot of the bill, what's the probability that we will get this matching grant?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't think I can. It's an unknown in the sense that I think a lot of it depends on other applications that come in, and that's throughout the state. I don't really know how to answer it. I do know that working together jointly gives you some weight, so that they definitely look, the state wants communities to work together, so they look positively upon applications that come from joint planning or joint municipal groups.
Do you help with the preparation of the application for the grant?
Yes, and actually we verified that with our executive director. In past, the current MAP funding program is actually something that used to be called LUPTAP. That was a different name for a funding source for land use planning that actually funded part of your 2009 plan. And I did not work with the Newtown area at that point, but I did work for many years with the Quakertown Area Regional Planning Committee. They are 6 communities and the school district. So they also updated their plan a number of years ago using a LUPTAP grant. And I was involved in preparing that application, and it's not only preparing the application, but there's administrative work with their interim reports and their closeout reports and providing all documentation. So yes, we will process that. We would need to work with the communities a little, just sometimes for information, but we would be the agency that could move that forward.
Writing this grant part of the $50,000
From what I'm told, we will do that for the communities without cost. That's what I was told that's what we would do, yeah.
That's good. So last time in 2009, we did get a grant.
Yes, I believe the comp plan in 2009 was like 70,000. It was a little less than 70,000, so it was a lot higher. That plan, to be fair, was a very different rewrite of the plan you had before, but it was quite a bit higher than what you have now.
But we were successful in getting a grant.
Yes, you are. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have.
Anyone else?
I said, my recollection from our meeting was there was another grant available as well that was an 80% match.
There is a second grant that we discussed. It's called a TCDI grant, and that stands for, I can tell you real quick, Transportation and Community Development Initiative Grant. And that is administered through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. That, I believe, is every other year. Now, I did just speak with our our transportation director, who went to a meeting last week at DVRPC to get information on the next funding round. They didn't have a funding round this year, but they plan to in 2020. That is a program, they put some emphasis on transportation issues. But transportation is a big issue in the area, so I think that we could follow through with something like that and possibly be eligible. But the specifics of the grant program aren't really in place yet. I'm thinking they also probably weigh a little bit greater on multi-municipal planning, so that's a good thing for Newtown. Their grant program will match up to, it doesn't necessarily mean it will be 80, but it could be up to 80% of.
Do we know if we can get both of those, or if one is exclusive of the other?
I do not know that, and that's something I will be checking on, but I'm really not sure. That grant though is, they have a window, an application window, so it's not rolling like the map. And I believe it would be, the guidelines might be coming out sometime in January, once they, finalize a lot of the little details. And I think the application period would be sometime in February or March, with an awards announced in April.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing.
Sure.
You said there was a deadline on the end of October. It's not possible that you'd be able to
For
meet that
math.
deadline, probably, right?
I really don't know, because that's next week.
Yeah.
That's
So-
next week. And but Wrightstown has approved the resolutions, adopted the resolutions. Upper Makefield, Jeremy and I were at a meeting last week. So I believe they're going to consider at their next supervisors meeting, which is next week, so I don't think we could.
There goes that.
Mhm.
Okay.
However, my understanding in talking with the representative at the state was that if an application is put forward and it's considered more in the spring, and let's say we hear about it in March and the jointure gets it, I did ask her if work could start now and it be billed, and my understanding is that it can. I'm going to definitely follow up to get a full verification, but from what I was told on the phone, it can go back to the beginning of the fiscal grant year, I guess, which was July.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further questions?
Yes, I had one. Critical to this process is public comment and having public involvement.
Yes.
Are there steps along the way, like other than planning commission or board meetings that people can come and comment and ask questions about?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, in the proposal that we gave out to the communities, to the jointure, we did incorporate a fee for developing a residential survey, which I believe for your 2009 plan, the communities did do a residential survey. So actually, if the jointure decides they don't want to do a survey, there's a little, I don't know how much exactly, maybe $1,200 that would be taken off of that total amount that we gave. So that's an optional thing. So that's one way of getting input, residential survey. But another option that we did talk about at the jointure, and I've worked with another community recently that did this, is all of the communities, all the townships have various committees that really specialize in certain things. You have your historic committees, you have your environmental committees. One thing that might be beneficial is to actually pull those committees into the process. And it doesn't necessarily mean that representatives have to attend every meeting, but one thing they did in Lower Makefield recently, when they updated their plan, right at the beginning, they set out the first couple months. I think we started meeting with their planning commission in May one year when we started with them. And then every month, June, July, August, there were different committees that were invited to their planning commission meeting. And the idea was really to get input from those various committees because they deal with certain issues and have more knowledge of maybe what some of the issues that you want to know in a plan are. And that was a really good process. That worked well. Not every member from the committees would attend the meetings, but we did have like a sheet that had a few questions. It wasn't very extensive, but just a few general questions to try to get input from all the members. And then at the meetings, the Planning Commission would discuss that. So that was another way that they tried to get really more involvement from various community members and people that are involved in different committees that deal with certain issues a lot more frequently.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think one of the things we had discussed in relation to something else, namely our pollution reduction plan and the environmental aspects of maybe this comprehensive plan, was to invite homeowners associations, the leaders of homeowners associations, into workshops that would talk about what would homeowners associations be able to do to help. But I was thinking that maybe there could be, in conjunction with that, if you're going to bring people in, we can also have a workshop on the comprehensive planning. And that might be, we might have several different workshops going on. Have you ever done anything like that?
Workshops in like an open house type of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine to talk to committee people, but, you know, how are they really connected to the community? I think with the homeowners associations, they deal with a lot of problems that are in a microcosm similar to what the township has to deal with. And I think it would be great to have some input from the homeowners association. If we can all get them into one room, maybe, that may be a problem.
Right. I mean, certainly I think all this type of outreach is really good and beneficial. I have worked on updates, and other members, my colleagues have worked on updates where there have been open houses where everybody in the community has been invited.